Oh, oh no. Oops. Hello, this is Sylvie Anchor, and I just got my Inktober collection from Artsnacks, and I couldn't wait to get into it. It came with the prompt list of the 31 prompts for every day in October. I don't know, it's not time quite yet, but I wanted to practice with it a little bit to get used to the tools. So we're going to do a little drawing on the paper that came in the kit. It also came with this cool pencil case. It has two pockets lined, and one of them fits the colored inks just perfectly. I got the red, yellow, and orange paint. I mean ink. It's not exactly the same as paint. It's watery ink. But I've seen other colors online. Some people got like blue and green. So it also came with this Copic pen. It's a brush pen. It has a little brush nib on the end. It's really interesting to use. And then the more traditional is the like a watercolor brush. This is a very, very fine tipped brush and a bottle of Liquitex black ink. So I'm excited to get started on these. I'm going to start first with just the sketch. And today is Phantasm Friday. I may or may not do some more of these. I've been thinking about doing something else, and I love alliteration, so be talk about that at the end of the video. So remember, a phantasm is a general term for spirits, and in today's episode, we're going to generally talk about ancestors. So in contrast to last week, we talked about angels, which some people confuse with ancestors. And that's a normal mistake, is angels are a different being, where ancestors are passed on humans that we were related to. And there's different ways that people honor their ancestors. So in the United States, where I'm from, they put American flags on graves every Memorial Day. And that's a holiday where we remember those that have given their life for this country. In Mexico, on November 1st and 2nd, they celebrate Dia de Muertos, Day of the Dead. And the people celebrate in different ways over the 2 days. One of the common things to do is to have altars, ofrendas, and they place all kinds of things for their ancestors in the altars, including food, drinks, handmade items, and candy. And one of those candies, the very iconic sugar skull. And that's actually what inspired me to do this video, is I thought, painting a sugar skull would be a really fun activity. But doing my research, I came across these other images of people dressed up for Dia de Muertos. And they paint their faces a lot like the sugar skulls, with the flowers and swirls. And they paint their face to look like a skull. And some of them are very convincing with the contouring and the teeth. They look really spooky a little bit, because skulls make me uncomfortable. So this is a funny video for me to do. All this pageantry, right? The altars, the costumes, the framed photos of loved ones, and visiting the cemetery. All of this is done to honor their ancestors. And you can look at any culture. They all have traditions. But Dia de Muertos is unlike any other, and they do it every single year. And even though it's the day after Halloween, it's not really related to Halloween. It's a completely different thing. And if you want to trace back on where does this, imagery of skulls come from, and almost being comfortable with the dead. And you have to look back to their ancestors, the Aztecs. They did human sacrifices, a lot of human sacrifices. We're talking thousands of years ago. And they would collect the skulls of those that they had sacrificed, and they would stack them in these racks called zampantli. And it was a display to honor their gods, to show look how much we have honored you, but also it was kind of like a trophy case to show off their own might, right? The power that they had. And these structures are still there. I mean, bones are metal. I know we don't often think about it as calcium is a metal, but that's why they keep their shape. They don't rot away like flesh does. So those structures of skulls are still there, and you can go look at them in lots of places in Latin America. And you can understand from a culture growing up with, those as your ancestors and icons of the past, that you'd be very comfortable with skulls and the idea of death. So it's engraved in them. And if you do your own ancestry, you may find, some of the decisions you make and influences aren't even consciously part of your culture, but maybe passed down from generation to generation all the way down. So that's what we mean by honoring and calling on your ancestors. So you may only know a couple of generations back, right, of the people you're related to from meeting in person, but your ancestors go on and on and on all the way back. So you may be able to do some research to find out some of your ancestry, and I'm sure that they would be very honored for you to take interest in where you came from. And a person who can talk to the dead is called a medium. It's not something I can do on command for other people, but occasionally I will hear a resonance that feels like it's the voice of my mother or grandmother, who I was very close to. And it's not like making a phone call. You can't just like reach out and say, hey, sometimes they answer, but they may be too far behind the veil to reach out to. And it just varies at different times on how close they are to the veil. And that's one of the, I think, superstitions of that time of year, is the veil is thin. So it's easier to communicate with them, which I think may give a correlation to Halloween in a way, because it comes from very different. It comes from European tradition, where it comes from the Americas, the Native American cultures. So when I do my spirit work, I'll cast a circle and I'll welcome all helpful spirits and ancestors into my circle. I'll say it out loud. All helpful spirits and ancestors are welcome here. And most people do cry out to their ancestors. I mean, I was thinking about the phrase, crying uncle, or when people get scared, they cry, mommy, right? We look to strength from our elders that came before us. So it's not just honoring people alive who are older than us, the people who you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. I mean, it's kind of funny, you wouldn't be here if your great grandma and grandpa didn't fall in love and get down to it. So now I'm putting down the ink with this Copic brush pen, and I know it looked kind of crazy. When I kept looking at it, it looked like a clown with all these red blobs on the head, but now the roses are really taking shape. I really enjoyed inking these roses. It kind of reminded me of tattoos in a way. And I think one of my best compliments I've ever had on my work is I've had, I think about 3 people ask me to design them a tattoo. So that's really flattering. I wouldn't want to take it up as an art, but I know that you can bring a piece of art to an artist and they should be able to replicate it on your skin. So it's an interesting art. I haven't done any. I don't know. I'm not really into doing free art for people, and that's a whole other topic, is doing commissions and things like that. But I'm finishing up some extra inking here with the Copic pen, and I'm gonna go in with my little fine pen in a minute here. It's a Bic Intensity pen. There it is. So it's one of my favorites. I used it almost exclusively last Inktober. I just did the whole thing with pen. So this year I'm looking forward to using, the actual liquid inks and brush pens like this. And I actually own a couple of brush pens that I've just been too afraid to use. But training with these has really, opened my eyes to how fun these tools really are. So this has been Phantasm Friday, and I may or may not do some more of these, maybe not every single week. And I was thinking, I love alliteration. I've been enjoying doing the celebrity readings, like we've done a couple of these, and I would really like your input on which celebrities you'd like. So please let me know. I've been thinking of maybe some presidential candidates, some political figures, if you'd be interested, actors, singers, sports figures. And even if I don't know anything about them, it's even more interesting actually for me to do a reading when I don't know anything about the person. I feel like I'm less biased. It's actually harder to read for your closest friends because you already know what's going on in their life. And that's why reading for yourself is the most difficult because you're really biased to the outcome, and sometimes it's hard to see the message objectively when it's about you. So I hope you've enjoyed watching me draw this painted skull. I did a little bit of extra shading and touches up before I finished. So thank y'all for watching and have a great day.